morning, good afternoon, and or good evening to wherever you are in the big wide world, and welcome to Dimart Gaming. Recently, Bandai released 4 new chapters to the Digimon Liberators web novel, which expanded the cast of the characters with 2 new members of the debug team, Suzune Kazuki and her partner Digimon Frigimon, and Ryutaro Williams and his Tyrannomon. Which brings me to the heart of this video, in that both of these lines have received brand new Digivolutions. With the one that has me and seemingly many others excited, the brand new prehistoric powerhouse, Dinomon. A little bit of setup before I drone on. I've been a fan of Digimon since the original Adventure era, which means unfortunately that I'm very old. But at least I've lived long enough for Tyrannomon to break free from Greatmon's shadow and finally come into its own. And that's not to say that Tyrannomon hasn't had its moments, or tried to before. When the redigitized games were released, a new dedicated level 6 was created for the line in the form of Tyrannomon, which is a welcome and positive addition to the roster. For me and a lot of others, the Digimon card game has reinvigorated and helped bring in whole new groups to the franchise we hold so dear. In fact, one of the cards amongst its first wave in the West was Tyrannomon. This green level 6 was the first deck I tried to make for the game, and have held out hope for the longest time to make it into a workable deck. With the new cards that have been shown off, I feel that this is Tyrannomon's real chance to make an impact on the game. So let's dive in and see just what's gotten me and seemingly so many others so hyped. Bandai has treated us to a preview of 4 cards which will release in EX08's Chains of Liberation. Those being the Ryutaro Tamer, level 4 Tyrannomon, level 5 MasterTyrannomon, and the eponymous level 6 Dinomon. We know from this character page that Tyrannomon's level 3 is an Agumon, however currently that card hasn't been revealed to us, nor has the egg or any possible tie-in option cards. So for now, let's focus on what's been revealed to us so far. First up is Ryutaro, a 3-cost red tamer which at the start of your main phase, gain a memory, if your opponent has a Digimon. So far fairly decent. With the right pairing, you can easily start your turn with more than 3 memory. This is a good sign. Traditionally, Tyranno Tribal support has focused on reducing costs, which can lead to awkward situations being able to control how much memory the deck can pass over to the opponent, but not having enough to get yourself to the position that you want. The second effect is the real focus of the card. When one of your Digimon with the name Tyrannomon attacks, by suspending this tamer, that Digimon may digivolve into a card with Tyrannomon in its name or the dinosaur trait in hand, for the Digivolution cost reduced by 1. Bit of a mouthful so far, but as the bard said, let's break it down. So, we've got an on-attack Digivolution effect, it can be triggered from a level 4 onward, and you can reduce its cost by 1. Now to me this is a pretty decent effect. It plays into the aggressive playstyle, and able to put your opponent on the back foot, swinging it with a level 4 or 5 and jumping to level 6 and triggering all the effects, while also doing it for cheaper than listed. This can also pair very well with BT14 Tyrannomon to attack on the end of step, and go up with cost -2 with just these 2 cards, such as getting up to your level 5 of choice, then either playing another Tamer or Option or even another Digimon, then being able to go into Dinomon at your end step by activating BT14's Inherit to attack at the end of turn, then being able to also trigger Ryutaro's ability Digivolve on attack for a further cost -1. So that's a Dinomon for only a cost of 2. I think one of the best overlooked aspects of this card is that it includes Dinosaur Trait. Now this is necessary as Dinomon currently does not have the Countess Tyrannomon in name, such as Gaiamon's effect. However, it opens the door for you to look at other possible options that might have fallen in the digital gaps, as perceived pack fillers or squeezed out for more meta staples. It's clear that the intention of this card is to focus on and support the new Tyrannomon line in the set, yet when I go over possible deck building, I'll rank a few cards worth considering for the level 6 slot. Now that we've gone over the Tamer, let's get into the other side of this, the Digimon. So, first and foremost, all 3 are red-green dual colors, all of them falling under the vaccine or data type in the case of level 4, and finally, they all contain the Dinosaur/Liberator trait. So, the first of the revealed line is the level 4 Tyrannomon, with 5000 DP, a play cost of 5, and a Digivolution cost of 3, which can go on top of a red or green Digimon. So far, so same. This is the standard of Tyrannomon cards from BT11 onwards. Now, this is where it gets interesting. First up, we have a special Digivolution cost of 2 if digivolving from a reptile. This is a great addition as it allows the deck to focus on its archetypes, and it can use this cost in the raising area. Next up, we have a security effect, that when it's checked in security, after battle, you play without playing its cost. This one feels so in effect. While great to get a free level 4 with how the game is just now, a lone 5k is going to be easy prey for a lot of things. Finally, start of your turn and on Digivolution, this card gains 3+3k DP until the end of your opponent's turn. To me, this is the best part of the card, synergizing well with Dinomon at the top end, but also meaning you can safely digivolve in the raising area and then move up when you're ready. Also, it gives green access to an all turns DP buff, something they usually do not have access to. Additionally, having access to an 8k DP level 4 start of the turn is also quite nice. It can lead to a stress point of not having the optimal level 6 to end on, or just not having anything to go up into, which can obviously feel like you're losing out on a great effect. Lastly, we have the Inheritable, a nice simple your turn plus 2000 DP, which means that under the right circumstances, you could have a level 5 or 6 at 5000 DP before factoring in any possible Tamer effects. All in all, I would say this is a very solid workhorse for the archetype, giving not only solid DP gains, but also having to save on memory under the right circumstance. Now, let's move up the chain and talk about the next in line, the level 5, MasterTyrannomon. With a play cost of 8 and digivolution cost of 4 over a red or green, and respectable 8000 DP, it comfortably fits the mold established by other level 5 Tyrannomon. However, where it truly starts to shine is in its abilities. So like the Tyrannomon that came before, we have a special digivolution cost of 3 from a Tyrannomon, a continuation of this inbuilt cost reduction in the archetype, which is great to see. Not needing the over-reliance on Tamers as before is very welcome. Now, this is where it starts getting good, for Bandai hath finally graced us with protection. That's right, your eyes do not deceive you. We have actual protection in Tyrannomon. We have been granted Fortitude. It feels good, doesn't it? So, a quick primer on Fortitude. When this Digimon will be deleted, if it has any Digivolution sources, it can be played again for no cost. Like all things, it doesn't react against bounce or send to effects, however finally having something that makes it an all or nothing gamble when leaving the stack out. But, is there anything else? Why yes there is. They also have an on play and when Digimon ability. You may suspend one Digimon, then if this Digimon is suspended, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 8000 DP or less. One of the things of note is that they are not once per turn, so if something does trigger Fortitude on its Digivolution turn, it can come back and suspend something else. The set of the effect is going to be situational, but a nice bonus if you're able to, though just being able to suspend something is a nice control effect. Moving on to the Inheritable, we have a nice simple sec attack plus 1, which means that Dinomon or any other level 6 will be striking your opponent for 2 checks, a solid threat potential within the archetype. There is a lot to like about this card, not just for its protection, but for its ability to influence the battle area. Additionally, the suspend effect does not specify the target, which means you're free to suspend itself or anything else on either side of the field, meaning you can set up some very crafty plays. Now we come to the Mon of the Hour, the main headliner. It may have taken them more than 20 years to get here, but they're making a grand entrance. Dinomon. This brand new level 6 with a play cost of 13 and digivolution cost of 5 over a red or green and a sizable 13k DP, they're going to make their presence felt, and that's before we get into their effects. Starting from the top, we have a digivolution cost reduction of 4 if it's on a level 5 with Tyrannomon in name, or the dinosaur trait. Continued cost reduction, you love to see it. But wait, there's more. Not only do we have a native sec attack plus 1, but Fortitude as well. Natively hitting for 2 checks, and if it goes down to security, it can come right back again. Guess what? The hits don't stop coming. On play and when digivolving, you may suspend one Digimon, then delete one of your opponent's suspended Digimon with the lowest DP. Always remember folks, if they only have one stack, regardless how strong it is automatically the lowest DP. Surely that must be all of it. Well, as you can see, not only is Dinomon pure offensive powerhouse, they also have some defensive tech as well. Opponent's turn. While this Digimon is suspended, all of your opponent's Digimon can only attack suspended Digimon. A unique pseudo-blocking ability, much like how the Tyrant line is able to redirect into one of their suspended Digimon, forcing your opponent to deal with a 13k DP or potentially a 16k DP, which has the chance to recur itself and trigger its on-play abilities once again. There is a lot to like about Dinomon and the new line that we've gotten, with both strong offensive potential, swinging at 18k DP with 3 checks in security, then defensively potential with 16k DP, wall that if it's deleted can return itself to the field, ready to do it all over again. So like many of you, the hamster wheel of bad ideas is revving up and going, what kind of deck can I make with all of this? Well, let's find out together, shall we? So right up front, we don't have access to the full picture of what's coming. We haven't seen level 3 or the egg, so the most we can go on is that the colors we are working with are red and green. We're looking for cards containing the words Tyrannomon, Dinosaur, and Reptile. So far, while I do feel the deck is a dual color deck, with how it plays, it feels like we'll be seeing a green egg for the line. However, I can and will probably be wrong, though for this video, I'm going to focus just on the level Digimon. With that, let's start with the level 3s. Of the multitude of Agumons that are out there, we have 2 mono greens we can look at. One from BT2, a cheap and cheerful vanilla option which gives us an inheritable plus that 1k DP on your turn, while the other being BT11, which on play searches the top 4 cards and adds a Tamer card to the hand, and the same plus 1k DP inheritable. Of those 2 options, I personally favor the BT2 option. To me, while you might not use its search for and maybe getting a Tamer, has never seemed worth it. On practice, you end up bottom decking far more useful pieces than what you would end up gaining. Now, what are some of the other considerable candidates? One of the aspects I was looking at with all this access to spending our opponent's board, what can we do to get access to the ever-reliable green staple of piercing? It turns out we've actually got a few good contenders that can make the cut. The first one took me by surprise when researching was BT18's Tinkermon, a green-red 3-cost which can digivolve from those two colors for a 1-cost. However, it does bring a lot to the table. Firstly, we have inheritable piercing. We are a red-green deck, and if we do fight our opponent's Digimon, we also want to check security. We've even got another Digivolution cost reduction built in. When it digivolves once per turn into a multicolored Digimon, which is green or red, reduce the cost by 1. Downside is you have to make use of it outside of the raising area, which means that it can go into any of the existing dual-colored Tyrannomon for a cost of 2. If we're focusing on just getting inheritable piercing, we can also look at the SD18 Muchomon. While its main effect won't matter at 0 cost Digivolution and inheritable piercing, that's all we're asking of it. The only issue is it would lock us into green eggs. Well, these are all good ideas for buffing and enhancing our stack. However, what about more utility options for our level 3s? Well, our current selection for searchers is lacking. Most are tribally focused. However, there's BT14's Kunemon, which is a search 3 and grab any green. However, with a chance of running a high amount of mono red cards, it may end up disadvantaging us in the long term. Yet we may have a sleeper option in ST18 Tyrannomon. Guess dinosaurs and birds are closer than we thought. So why might this birdie boy make the cut? Well, they're an on-play Search 3, and while the first part for anything avian is a dud, the second half is where it counts. It lets you grab any card with Liberator in it, which means all of our new line and the Tamer are eligible targets. On top of that, it has plus 2k DP on your turn. Inherit. Now that's some value. So, that's our level 3s. But what about the other levels? Well, this will be a lot easier to get through. As things currently stand, you'll probably just want to end up maxing out each of the new cards. For the other slots, BT14 Tyrannomon is an easy choice to fill up on. An all-turn pseudo blitz and a cost reduction while going up the stack the turn you raise it. I'll take your entire stock. To round up the choices, I'm currently thinking BT11 Tyrannomon in the right circumstances lets us play a Tamer at no cost while still providing a nice little power boost for later on. Coming in at level 5, this is where things get a bit more experimental. With 4 slots to fill, as I'm one of those dogmatic adherents of the 12, 10, 8, and 6 doctrine, there are 2 front options that I'm thinking of. BT11 Metal Tyrannomon, more suspension shenanigans, and the chance to burn when you delete another Digimon. The other consideration, is which may make the cut, is the new promo MasterTyrannomon. They're a quirky one with access to both collision and blocker, so it's bound to hit somebody. While also making it so when your opponent's Digimon does suspend, it'll unsuspend, allowing you to go for multiple attack chances. It also counts as having Tyrannomon in name, and can digivolve for 1 at cost 3, while the inheritable allows it to restand once Digimon suspends. It's a curveball of a choice, but considering how the deck operates, it might allow for some interesting plays, and lean more into that suspension strategy. Now the level 6s. Obviously, Dinomon is the star of the show. It's going to be a decision of just how many you want. Currently, I'm thinking of putting the man at 4, just to fully Dino-max it. However, we now have 2 coveted spots left to fill. Well, who might we pick for those? Of the existing Tyrannomon, most don't make the cut. It's sad to say, but time has truly passed them. Promo Ace might be worth thinking of, as it allows us to punish boards going wide and trash more security, much like its BT11 cousin. But it has a massive target on its back, with no forms of protection and the majority of the time only being able to hit 11k or less. If not them then, who might we pick? Well, it might not be the most out there choice. However, it might be time for BT9's Dino Rexmon to make their mark. Yes, out of the wide variety of green level 6s out there, in terms of both colors and effects, can very easily complement the playstyle the deck offers. So what does Dino Rexmon offer to the table is not just another beat stick, but the ability to suspend your opponent's Digimon for each Tamer they have in play, which also gains your memory for each one suspended, so the big bad 5-cost Digivolution can be refunded depending on how wide your opponent goes. It also acts as a control on your opponent's turn, being able to pop a 6k or lower Digimon when they suspend. It's important that while it might not matter for things such as Alliance, it'll be a great tool to catch your opponent out on when attacking or swarming you. It's also a you may ability, so it lets you pick your target and when you want to activate it. Just like there are 2 sides to every story, so too is the case for the deck. For which brings us to our Tamer and option cards. So it's important to remember we don't have a full picture of the new line, what else the set may bring, and the possible meta at the moment. As I write this, there is a JP balance update coming in August. So changes are coming, the player base shifts, everything is in flux. So looking at our roster of Tamers, we can easily say that Ryutaro is going to be our star Tamer for the deck. With both gaining memory and cost reduction combined with that on-attack Digivolution, It's just a matter of figuring out how many to include in the deck. Now, I'd be remiss of me to not discuss the Tamer we've had linked to Tyrannomon since the beginning of the game, Taiga. Unfortunately, of the two, the only one with shields that could be useful is the BT11 version, which offers a generic -1 Digivolution cost from a level 5 onwards, and an extra +1 DP on your turn. It does pain me to see the original partner Tamer for the archetype just not work as well as it should. While he does offer piercing and a -1 cost for Digivolutions to any Tyrannomon, it's all tied to Digimon with that name, which as it stands only takes us to our level 5s. Yet, even though BT11 Taiga might be better, when looking at its playstyle, I believe what the deck needs is a memory setter. With both color families, there are some great generic options. BT1 Taiga to gain even more security checks, or BT2 Mimi for that coveted extra raising phase. However, the main one I'm thinking of is another structure deck card, ST18 Shoto Kazuma, a 4-cost green Tamer which is at the start of your turn sets the memory to 3 while also allowing us to redirect attacks. So as the card says, when one of your Digimon attacks one of your opponent's Digimon, by suspending this Tamer you can change the target to another Digimon or the player. A nice way to get around our chaff blockers or make sure that we're hitting the targets that we want to. Also, because he has the Liberator trait, Tyrannomon can grab him on the search. Now, rejoice as we are finally nearing the end as we have a little look at what option cards might benefit the deck. Currently, I believe that these 4 option cards that are going to be the most useful. Breaking it down even further, we have 2 offensive and 2 utility ones. So, let's go over the utility ones. The first being a delicate plan. Why yes, I would like to swing into my opponent's security stack for multiple checks and not worry about security effects. Oh, why yes please. All for 1 cost? Oh, you shouldn't have. You're spoiling us. With his deck's ability to generate high DP, oftentimes the major threat you're going to be is Trixie's security effects, so having the ability to theoretically stop that feels like a no-brainer. So if a delicate plan is there to help us when we attack, what about outside of that? Turns out there may be a card for that. Enter in X Antibody. But wait, I hear you say, imaginary viewer. We only have 1 X Antibody Digimon, and on top of that, nothing in the deck utilizes the X Antibody trait. Well, unfortunately you're right. However, this card is a perfect Fortitude fodder. I'm sure some of you are already figuring out what I'm thinking of here, but let's go over it. Let's say something triggers Fortitude on either MasterTyrannomon or Dinomon. Maybe we're lucky enough that they survive onto our turn, so at this point we have a level 5 or 6 just by itself. Well, we can play X Antibody option to give that card another source, so that if something does try to delete it, we have another chance to trigger Fortitude, and it gives a bit of insurance against Source Strip. With Fortitude only being able to trigger it if the Digimon has sources, having one that your opponent can't get rid of is a nice bit of insurance against blue players. I'm a firm believer that when making a deck, you should always try to include some option cards that can either be security bombs or just ways to deal with difficult situations. Yet what cards can we use in this regard? Well, an easy pick is the ever-reliable Crimson Blaze. A nice simple option that can board wipe an opponent and lock them out of playing Digimon by effect until the end of their turn. Another one that's caught my eye that will be so much fun to say, ST18's Animois Embrace. No, it's not the French making a word needlessly complicated to say. It's named from an ancient Greek god. So, what does this 5-cost green option do apart from tongue-tying you and your opponent? And not in the fun way. Well, on play, suspend a Digimon. If this set effect suspend one of your Digimon, return one of your opponent's suspended Digimon to the bottom of the deck. Then, unsuspend one Digimon. With both MasterTyrannomon and Dinomon having access to built-in suspend abilities, this can be a great way to bottom deck difficult targets or ones that you don't want to trigger any on-deletion effects. With its security effect to bottom deck an opponent's suspended Digimon, a great effect to catch your opponent out when they go for security. Yet can be a really useful tool for getting rid of some solid board control, with the option to really lean into it with the EX08 Pomomon, which suspends something when in effect suspends it. With that, we finally come to the close of this long and rambly video, talking about a card game based on a niche boys virtual pet franchise from the night. So thank you all for taking the time to get to the end of this. I hope that you found it enjoyable, and maybe you've thought of other potential deck ideas. If so, drop them down below and let me know, and we can see what others have to say as well. Do I feel that Dinomon is going to come along in January and stomp up to the top of the meta? No. However, I feel it's got a real chance to be competitive, to hold its own. As many, if not all of you have guessed, this is my first time doing something like this. And it's because it's the first time in a while I've been really hyped for a new deck and a new set coming out. As I said earlier, Tyrannomon was the first deck I ever tried to make for the game. Since then, I've bounced between different decks such as Leviamon or Hexblaumon, but the deck I've invested the most time into has been my Black War, much to the annoyance of my local scene and my anger issues. As more gets revealed for the line and the set, I'll hopefully do another follow-up video on that and how it might impact the deck. So, Once again, thank you so much for sticking around, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And until next time, may you find peace through gaming.